Good morning, everyone. My name is Alexandra, and I would like to welcome you at our webinar. Today, we will discuss with you the new framework for the European Entrepreneurial Region Award. Today with us it's Jaime, who is working with me, and most of you know Jaime in person, and Piotr from Committee of the Regions. We will have 1 hour and a half of the webinar. First, it will be the presentation by Piotr. Later on, we will pass to the part on the questions and answers. Please feel free to put your questions in the Skype chat. In the meantime, during the presentation by Piotr, we will read them all and ask after the presentation. I would like to also inform you that the webinar is recorded, so we will share with you the link later. We will also send to you the presentation after the webinar. I think from the technical point of view, it's all fine. You are all muted, so this is the reason why we ask you to write the questions or the technical issues that you are facing on Skype, on chat for Skype. You can also send the email to me or Jaime if you don't have this possibility, if you join via phone. Okay, so today registered, we have 20 participants. There is still people who will be joining. We have this, the interest, highly interest from Spanish cities, from Valladolid, from Barcelona, also Bristol, Munich. So we are looking forward for your questions. And yes, so thank you very much. And now I will give the floor to Piotr.
Hello, everybody. I'm very happy to be here to present to you the European Entrepreneurial Region Award Scheme and its new framework. I have been a policy officer working for the Econ Commission Secretariat in the European Committee of the Regions, and we are in charge of the European Entrepreneurial Region Scheme, a scheme which is already 10 years old. We have run this through the last 10 years, and the network of the region cities winning the EER label is already counting 30 regions and cities from 16 EU countries. Those are different entities. They are regions, cities, provinces, communities that are very diverse. So they are smaller, bigger, they are more or less developed, they are central or peripheral. Last year, we have carried out an in-depth evaluation of the EER scheme, and that has resulted in the adoption of a new framework for the next 5 years with some new elements that I am going to present to you. First of all, a word of introduction. What is actually the EER scheme? It's an award scheme that awards European regions and cities with the most convincing, forward-looking entrepreneurial vision and strategy. The EER label is a honorary title. That means that there is no financial compensation linked to it. And our ambition is basically to use the EER scheme as a tool to encourage European territories to invest in embracing the key challenges of tomorrow. The EER has always been a future-oriented award, and I suspect that it will be so even more in the next years. And through the EER, we want to convince regions and cities that it's necessary to invest in building connected, digitized, and sustainable economies. What are the benefits of the EER, and what is the added value of the label? They are multiple, but I would summarize them in 3 main points. The evidence shows that the EER label can be effectively used as a tool boosting your entrepreneurial ecosystem, mobilizing your stakeholders, and basically helping you to improve the business climate in your territory. And at an external level, it's a gateway to interesting collaboration opportunities, cross-regional, inter-regional collaboration opportunities, because as a winner, you are part of the quite active network of entrepreneurial regions and cities. There are many examples, of course, I could give you of the projects that have been completed or are still ongoing, but I cannot present all of them now. Of course, I can provide information on request. And then finally, a third point about the EER label is that it's just a powerful communication tool. It's up to the region to use it the way they like, but it has definitely some communication impact to be able to use the label and promote the region as an entrepreneurial, as a territory that is friendly to entrepreneurs and small medium enterprises. Who can apply? Well, that's in the EER regulation. All national, subnational authorities that are endowed with some competences at political level to implement policies on entrepreneurship, small and medium enterprises, industry. So we don't really distinguish here between smaller and bigger entities. I mean, it's up really in different countries. It can be different levels, but in general, it's always either a regional level or a more local level. That's also possible. The new scheme was adopted by the Bureau of the Committee of the Regions in October last year. And for us in the Committee of the Regions, of course, the EER is a tool to support the implementation of the European policies on SMEs, on industry, on sometimes many others that are not directly linked, such as the circular economy and others, digital single market. The European Commission is a dedicated strategic partner of the EER, and we have been collaborating with DG Grow for many years. And the result is that the Commission is also supporting the collaboration among the European regions and cities. And the latest example is a project that is now funded from the COSME program about connecting the European entrepreneurial regions, and this project is currently ongoing. Now, more concretely, what are the new features of the EER framework in the next years? First of all, a completely new element. Each year, we are going to select, I mean, the jury of the EER is going to select a lead theme to highlight different aspects of supporting entrepreneurial activity. And all applicants will be encouraged to make a link to that EER lead theme in their applications. The most successful ones may be awarded with a thematic EER label. Then the next change is the use of the EER label. In the new framework, we have authorized the use of different subtitles for the EER. We know, for instance, that in order to attract cities and metropolitan regions, we could adapt the EER to the specific needs of these territories and authorize the use of a different subtitle, such as European Capital of Entrepreneurship or European Entrepreneurial City. That is possible under the new framework. Then a few words about the application process for EER 2021. The application process is fundamentally unchanged in a sense that we will still use an application form which is only slightly adapted and a declaration of political commitment that needs to be signed by your political authority. And then part of the application could also be supporting letters from stakeholders. They are not mandatory, but they can form an important asset for the application. Slate. A few words about the annual theme for this year. It's entrepreneurship for a green and sustainable future. And through this theme, we would like to promote local and regional authorities to develop policies and measures supporting entrepreneurs, SMEs and industry in the transition to a low carbon, circular and sustainable economy. Then it's important also to highlight the difference between the different labels. This thematic label is in principle one of the three that the jury will award. And it's not so much different than the others. In fact, it will just be specially mentioned during the award ceremony. And it could be that next year there will be a conference that will be linked to this thematic theme, so green sustainable future. So in this sense, the thematic award is not much different than the other awards, but it can give additional visibility to the region who would like to underline or stress this particular aspect of their application. The application process for the EER 2021 is open until end of March, and the award ceremony will take place during the plenary session of the European Committee of the Regions, and the awards are going to be handed out by the President, most likely on the 1st of July. The assessment criteria, I mean, here I refer to the standard assessment, so no non-thematic assessment criteria that are going to continue as they were established some years ago, and there is not much changes here, in fact. So the EER jury still has to proceed to the selection of the winners based on 4 main assessment criteria that also form different parts of the application form. These are political vision and commitment. That includes several elements that you see, and maybe something to underline in particular is the added value of the EER label to the territory. This is something the jury looks in particular to see what could be the potential added value of the label to the territory. And a new aspect here is also the response to the new challenges, to the new emerging challenges such as digitalization and sustainability. We have also put them as a separate bullet point to underline that this is also, these two phenomena are going to drive the agenda for change in the next years. The second assessment criteria is multi-level governance, partnership and cooperation. That's no surprise. I mean, we really want the EER to promote stakeholders' involvement in the design and implementation of entrepreneurial strategies in your territory, and this also includes ability and capacity to cooperate with other EU regions and cities. Third, action plan. This is the core of the application form, and of course there is no recipe for action plan. They can be designed according to your own priorities, according to your own activities, but it has to contain some sort of monitoring, some sort of indicators measuring how you are going to implement these actions and how you are going to measure them, monitor them. Then, of course, there will be an evaluation meeting after the accomplishment of your EER year. The members of the jury organize on-site evaluation visit where they provide you with some feedback on the implementation of your EER year, based, of course, on the report and data that you will provide us. Lastly, communication. Communication plan is integral element of the application form. It's really the reflection of how you are going to sell your story. So it's very important also to try to propose a set of actions. I also identify different target groups, different communication target groups, and this is also something the jury looks at, if the visibility of the EER label is guaranteed in the application, through the application form. I think I will stop here. I have given you an overall presentation of the new framework, and I'm happy to take any questions that you may have.
Thank you very much, Piotr. Jaime, do we have questions online? If not yet, feel free to write those. In the meantime, I will maybe address the questions that some of you approached me with before. So why it's good for the cities to apply, especially when you mentioned that there's now a change for the name of the award and the possibilities, but what is the added value for the cities from the examples that you already had from the cities that won the award in the previous years? If you can just elaborate a bit more on this.
Yes, well, we are indeed interested in promoting the EER among cities as in the previous years. I mean, also especially in the first 5-6 years of then the label was not that much popular among cities, and in the last 2-3 years we see that there is an increased interest in cities. I mean, just because also the context is changing. We see that many of the phenomena that are actually driving the change right now are happening in cities. So cities develop very special and entrepreneurial ecosystems that are different than others. I mean, they deal with different kinds of challenges, or the challenges that are with greater intensity in the cities, and such as digitalization, collaborative economy. All this is happening in cities in a greater intensity. And what we mean to say is that cities are laboratories of change. So if we speak about sustainability transition, then definitely cities will be on the forefront of that in the next years. And we also believe that entrepreneurship is the only way to go, because only through the entrepreneurial activity we can drive the change forward. So we are going to need in the next years a great deal of entrepreneurship to go through this transition. So to help our enterprises, small and medium enterprises in particular, to embrace this new aspects. In the previous years, we have had several applications from cities, and we see that they are also increasingly successful. What is also commonly, we have applications from cities forming a metropolitan regions, so cities with the suburbs and with surrounding regions. That's also very popular. And give you examples. We had last year, for instance, we had Gothenburg submitted a very good application, and this year they are going to implement their entrepreneurial strategy. We had also applications from other cities. In the past, we also had a successful city of Glasgow, who was winner of the EER label in 2017, if I'm not wrong. We also had Ile-de-France. That's also an example of a city with surrounding region, but they have also done a very good job in their EER year, and yes, we believe that cities have a great potential definitely for the future, and that's why we have also offered the possibility to use these slightly modified subtitles, such as European Capital of Entrepreneurship.
How many times the applicant can apply, and also if you give the feedback from the application, can you give like some remarks what could be done in a better way? What is the evaluation from the jury? And also, is it possible to see the winning applications for the cities and the regions to be inspired in the application process?
Yes. Well, there's no particular constraints with regard to the number of applications that you can submit. I mean, typically we had 2 or 3 applications from regions. That happens, that the regions apply twice, and if they are not successful for the third time, they give up. So that's the common pattern.
Okay.
I'm not surprised by this. I mean, because at some point you have to see, but it's more important that you develop a little bit your application form. So for those that have not been successful, we always provide feedback, and this feedback also is important to maybe work a little bit and improve your application, which is less time consuming than producing a completely new application. But those candidates that improve their application can really count on a special treatment by the jury. So those applications are always looked into more carefully in the evaluation process to see whether the application has been improved and whether it meets the criteria. And the other part of the question
to see the winning applications.
Yes, you can consult the applications that have won in previous years at the EER website. We can provide you with a link, of course, but on the EER website, at the European Committee of the Regions website, you can find a section with the applications of previous winners. And we encourage also to take inspirations from that. Not every application is the same. They follow different patterns sometimes, but you may definitely come up with some interesting ideas that you can reuse in your application process.
Regarding the geographical balance, because I see that every time more or less you try to cover different parts of the Europe among the 3 winners, is it really like something which is crucial for the jury? Or because what I want to say that we have many Spanish cities, for example, joining the webinar, and them, when they try it once, it's difficult to perceive the head of the unit or the politicians to apply one more time, because maybe don't allocate the time to do this. And sometimes the good point, the good hook is to underline that this year there was a strong representation from our country, and this is the reason why it was a bit more challenging than in previous years. Of course, you can never predict this. We face this problem every day in our work, but if you could a bit reflect on this, it would be useful for some members, for sure.
Yes, well, if I refer to Spain has a impressive record with the EER, of course, because we had, I don't know how many winners, but I think in many years we had one Spanish laureate, we had one Spanish region that has been awarded. I mean, up till now, it have been the regions that have been awarded from Spain, if I'm not wrong. So we had applications from cities, and I think that this is a good thing now to open up also to have applications from cities, and we are going to definitely to give a bit more special treatment to these applications, because many of the Spanish regions have been awarded with the label already. Indeed.
Yeah.
I think we have 5 or 6 that have been already awarded. And of course, the geographical criteria, they come into play at some point in the jury, because nobody wants to have 2 or 3 winners from the same region, from the same geographical part of Europe. So it has to come into play at some point. So after the evaluation of the formal criteria, then there is some kind of rebalancing done in the jury to look at if the composition of the proposed winners reflects more or less the European Union, and there is of course a tendency to allow to open up the EER also for the developing regions, for those regions that are catching up. So not necessarily for those who are already leaders, but also for those that are catching up and coming up with ambitious strategies, and this is also important. So the starting point is taken into account when assessing applications. The starting point can be very different for different candidates, and we're trying to look into that. And well, I could just encourage applications from Spain, because I believe that you just have a patent for winning the EER label. And I think that these are really, there's a lot of good practices that have been already contained in previous applications from Spain, and it's definitely, well, that's what I can say, a big potential in this country for the EER. And if we take cities, there is still a potential that is still untapped. So.
Regarding the jury, because what's the profile of the experts, how you select them, and is it the same crowd every year, or is it changing?
Yes, we try to maintain stability in the EER jury as much as we can. Of course, there are changes, but if we have, for instance, how many members of the jury? We have maybe around 8 or 9 permanent members of the jury. And they're, well, first of all, it's the president of the Committee of the Regions, or a vice president, depends. I mean, the president has a permanent seat and is a chair of the jury. Then there is a chair of the Econ Commission of the European Committee of the Regions. So we have 2 members of the Committee of the Regions. And then we also have representatives of the Commission of DG GROW and DG Regio, and social partners. Social partners are representatives of the organizations with whom we collaborate and who have interest in entrepreneurship, SME policies, so SME United, Eurochambre, Social Economy Europe, EURADA. I would say these are the 4 organizations that have a permanent jury member. And it's, in most cases, it's the same person every year. If we need to replace it, there is a process for appointing a new jury member. But the jury is, in principle, able to follow up on its work from previous years. So it's not that they meet for the first time and nobody knows what to do. They, in principle, they know a bit more about the applications that were submitted in previous years, so they have some track record of previous participation in the jury.
We have a question from one member, Richard Churchill, who says, how would Brexit affect any UK applications? Would it still be worth applying? So for any British cities?
Yes. We had that question already. I'm afraid I don't have good news for regions from the United Kingdom, because we haven't foreseen in the new framework that regions from outside the EU would be eligible to apply. So as long as the EU, as the UK remains the EU member, they can apply. But if Brexit happens before the end of application, before 31st of March, which, if I understand well, is very likely, then regions from UK will not be eligible to apply under the current framework. If we decide to extend the EER in the future, then we'll have to take it more globally. So we'll have to reflect also on the other countries that are outside the EU that could be also eligible. So we'd have to consider not just the UK, but also Norway, Switzerland, maybe also the candidate countries. But this has not been foreseen in the current framework. There has not been a political support at this stage for that.
And the second question, Jaime?
Sorry, that was the question.
Okay, perfect. So maybe just to sum up, we will take this award a bit more into our work among the working group entrepreneurship and SMEs. We had the next meeting of the Economic Development Forum in Valladolid 12th, 14th of February. And the next meeting of the working group will be taking place in June, and we will think about the possibilities of working a bit more with the cities which already won the award, and also to maybe have the possibility to share knowledge among us about the strategies and the activities. Piotr will be available to your direct questions. Yes, feel free to write to the address that is visible on our slide. how much details members can ask you? Do you give hints to the application? Basically, what type of advice they could call for you?
Yes, it's important to know with what kind of issues you can address us. Yes, I mean, as much as the time allows, of course, I can provide some concrete feedback on the specific on the parts of the application that you are interested in, or I can also provide with some additional feedback for those of you that submitted an application in the past and it has not been successful. This is something that I can look into because I have something concrete to look at and provide with you with some feedback on what was not all right, what was something that could be improved in the application. And for the new ones, well, I can provide with any kind of feedback that that I will be able to provide with my knowledge and my experience, and then that is also important. With that experience, I know how the jury proceeds in their work, and that's something very valuable. So it's always good to ask if you have questions about, for instance, section in the action in the application that concerns the action plan on how to set up indicators and what is the jury looking at when. Yes. So also about the technical elements in the application, because they do matter. So the use of graphics, for instance, the structure of the application, that is something that is also important. When a jury member is looking at the application, he has sometimes only a few minutes to get a good first impression of the application.
True.
So if the application is not structured well, it might be a bit deterring for a jury member to go into a more detailed read.
And the English is also,
Yes.
this is our recommendation always to, of course, it will be easier to be able to write it in the national languages, because sometimes it's just, the consultant who is writing or helping with the application, but also this is something which makes a bit easier for the expert to pass through the application. And
there's nothing
to
wrong from asking also a consultant to support to draft the application. There's nothing wrong about that. We sometimes we see which applications have been drafted by a professional. So we are able to do this, to see this, but we don't really provide nor credits nor we don't really. This is not something that we evaluate. In which style the application is written. I mean, we want it to be transparent. We want it to be readable and well structured, so that the way it's presented to the jury members, it's coherent for them also, and it's also inviting for them to dive into it and to read it.
Right. Okay, do we have any more questions online?
No more questions from any of the members. If anyone has some questions hanging, please feel free to write them down. But I think no one is.
It seems that everything is clear, and now you will just have to. And so, just from the practical point of view, do you think that how much time we need to dedicate to fill the application? Should the members start now, or still it's more brainstorming time? What is your recommendation from the applicants with the applicants?
My best advice is start as early as possible, and this is probably a very good moment to get the process started if you haven't started yet, because that also involves stakeholders, and that's the major drawback here, because drafting an application as such is not extremely time consuming. It can be done in several weeks, but in order to get the support for your application, to mobilize stakeholders, I think that you have to do it in advance. And the most successful applications we had were built around a process that involved these stakeholders from the start. And well, that can also be done at a later stage. Certain stakeholders are involved only after the being awarded the EER label. That's also another process that is launched. If you have been awarded with the EER label, then you mobilize extra resources, extra stakeholders to participate in this. But I think a certain amount of key stakeholders needs to be aware and needs to be already participating in the application process. Because there is, in the action plan, for instance, you certainly foresee certain activities that will be carried out by those stakeholders or coordinated by them. So this is the right moment to get your process started.
Okay, great.
We have one member typing.
Okay.
I'm not sure. We can wait for the question. If you mention stakeholders, do you mean triple helix?
Yes, precisely. Triple helix or quadruple helix, how you call it. So yes, I mean, it involves also political authorities from the region or from the city, and then all range of stakeholders which are part of the ecosystem. That includes also educational institutions, that includes also scientific institutes, that involves all kinds of bodies that are supporting entrepreneurs, SMEs that are dealing with regulations, and of course entrepreneurs themselves.
Thank you. I hope this answers your question. Yeah, seems like it does.
Okay, great. Well. So thank you very much, Piotr, for joining us. Thank you very much, members, that you joined the webinar. One more time, feel free to contact Committee of the Regions and the email address. We will share the presentation and we will share with you the recording of the award. So for now, I think we can finish the webinar. Thank you very much for being efficient and present with us. Have a nice day and see you soon. Thank you.
Thank you for your attention.